Great. Welcome to the late August meeting of the Richmond Development Review Board. If you, for those who are present in the room, you need to sign in the back of the room. And for those online, you should, how do you want them to do it? They leave their name, and contact information online.
They can put it in the chat, that would be appreciated, but I do see the names right here and I'll write them down.
Okay, perfect. For those who want to become what's called interested parties pursuant to Vermont law, which allows you to appeal any decision we do or do not make, you will need to offer testimony, whether it be written or oral, at the meeting in order to allow yourself to possibly be qualified as a interested party by the courts. Having said that, we have two items on the agenda, which disappeared off my iPad. And the first one, item one, is SUB 05-057, amendment for Jessica and Michael Sipe. They're seeking a subdivision amendment through the Stowe Club Highlands analysis to allow for a two-lot residential subdivision of 1.74 acres and 13.26 acres from an existing 15-acre parcel. The second lot of 13.26 acres would contain an existing studio barn that would be converted to a dwelling unit that currently has a residential prohibition. The applicants are seeking to remove this prohibition. So whoever is going to offer testimony, why don't you come up to the table? And I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Great. Why don't you tell us what you have in mind here?
We have names so we know who we're talking to.
Yeah.
I'm Michael Sipe.
Jessica Sipe.
I'm Adam Miller with Pease Mountain Law.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, what we're dealing with today, obviously, is a Stowe Club Highlands analysis that was provided to the board members, and also my staff notes indicate my thoughts on that. They obviously don't have to, you don't have to follow those, but that's pretty much where we're at right now. We want to, the applicants are seeking to remove that prohibition, of the residential prohibition on the lot that hopefully will be subdivided at some point in the future. If you remember this. If you remember, this was before you, I think, was it 2 months ago, David, or 3 months ago or so?
Yeah, it has been, and we've heard this this applicant's applications a few times already, so we're ready to move. We're ready to move forward on the new one.
Yeah, and I would just say in closing that we did reach out to council, town council, and they have guided us along this process. So that's where we're at.
Adam, why don't you tell us what you have in mind here?
Yeah. So yeah, I think we've been here 3 times and on the schedule a couple other times in the last few months. So you're familiar with the project, I think. And there was some confusion on how to get here. And so I'd just like to briefly summarize what we had pretty extensive conversations with the town attorney on how to get where we are. And the first part was the prior. The last time we were here was for a subdivision, which was denied because there was this condition from the 2008 subdivision approval that limited a use to agricultural. And so the town attorney guided that the proper way to get back before you is now to just seek to amend that condition to remove it. And then that would allow us to come back for a final subdivision approval, and if approved, to come back in the future for final subdivision approval. So that's the first
Adam,
one.
let me interrupt you for a second. One of the reasons also that we denied the last time was because we felt that a court had issued an order. What,
Yeah.
what's happening with that part of the matter?
Yeah, so that was the second thing I was going to address. We went over that with Attorney Rue also, who clarified that the DRB is the one who has the authority to remove that condition that was imposed by the DRB's permit, the final subdivision approval in 2006, and then it's not the select board and it's not the any court at this point unless we appeal a decision. But that authority rests with the DRB, and I believe Dave Rue was going to provide that opinion to the
Yeah.
town and to the DRB. Okay.
Yeah.
So that, I know that was confusion. We got a lot of confusion about that from the prior zoning administrator, but we clarified that with the town attorney. If that answers your question, David.
Yeah, I'll have to review David Rue's analysis again.
Okay.
Let's,
And then,
let's move forward then.
yeah, and then the third one, the proper way to do this for the town would be the Stowe Club Highland analysis. And that's an analysis of finality versus, the balancing of finality of zoning decisions versus the flexibility of changed circumstances. And that while obviously that determination rests with the board, there's pretty substantial conditions for changes in this that merit a change here. Was the other recommendation that I understand he was pointing to the town. And so I'm happy to get into any of that analysis that's helpful for the town. What we were
Well,
discussing, yeah.
Why don't you put that, your analysis on the record then? I know you summed it up in a letter that's an exhibit. Why don't you quickly go over it for the board?
Sure. So essentially Stowe Club analysis is a balance of the need for some kind of finality in zoning decisions versus that conditions change over time, and sometimes what made sense at one point doesn't make sense in the future. And so the analysis provides a number of factors for the board to consider in balancing those two. And in this case, the most compelling ones are really that so this condition in 2006 stated that it was trying to protect the wastewater system that was going to be in the subdivision, and then the views from this subdivision, from the homes in this subdivision. And to the extent that that made sense in 2006, the conditions have changed in the last 20 plus years, and that the wastewater system has been built. It's in a distant portion of the parcel and has no impact by this building envelope here. And then there's been a bunch of the specific building envelope has been developed and currently has a large modern barn for a photography studio, business studio there, and then a second both permitted structures on thing. And what we're proposing is not any kind of building or change to any kind of view of anything. It's really just convert the commercial use into allowing a residential use on this separate building envelope. The other major change that happened here is there was a re-subdivision in 2008 of this parcel to subdivide this protected parcel and to merge it with the Sipe's parcel, which they bought 2015. So the whole project has been reworked involving this parcel, and that's when they developed, the residence and on the original portion of their parcel and the commercial buildings on this subdivided part. The larger community has also changed. Phase Corner's seen some rather substantial development. I mean, by Richmond standards, rather substantial development in that area. There's been a number of houses that have gone out, especially in the last few years, such that a residential use of an existing building is unlikely to offend anybody's sense of wastewater protection or the building, or any kind of view shed from those homes, which is primarily their home is the primary one that sees this property. And then the third one is that there have been substantial changes in the town priorities stated in the town plan. The 2006, the plan in effect back then was very conservation focused and non-development, which has changed in the town's priorities. The current town plan puts high emphasis on balancing housing and needing more housing, but balancing it with preserving the rural, agricultural landscapes that we have. What we're proposing is to allow the adaptive reuse of an existing building that is also an agricultural parcel and a commercial parcel to allow more housing without any building and any. It already has a septic system. It already, it already has a driveway. It's already built out. What we're proposing is exactly in line with the creative use of housing without damaging or harming landscapes. I think the 2018 town plan and our current proposed amendments are really aiming the town toward.
That's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, sorry, that is longer than my memo.
No, that's good.
Okay.
To be fair, I'm gonna jump in and acknowledge that I have missed the last few meetings, so I've missed a lot of this, so I appreciate that. And one of my clarifying questions was this exact, what you just stated, that both these buildings are already there. Now that you've said that, I remember, believe it or not, I was on the board when we approved this.
Thanks.
And yeah, it's paperwork to be able to convert the barn to living space is really what we're talking about. Okay.
Is that gonna remain a single family house? Is that what you have in mind?
Yes.
Anybody else on the board have any questions?
Nope.
Yeah, I guess I do. Adam, is it, without the record of the original approval, it's hard to understand why this condition was imposed in the first place. Can you give us some sense of that history?
Yeah, it depends how deep we want to go into it, but like
Really deep.
the long and the short of it is this was a an 8-lot subdivision. There was a challenge in the town initially denied the application. The developer appealed that to the environmental court. The appeal addressed the use of the PRD provisions. It had nothing to do with this. But the best we can read is at some point somebody said something, one of the neighbors or something said something about a view shed aspect of that. And so one of the building lots, this large building lot that was number 7 at the time, which had a residential use in it. It had a portion of it which was conserved, which the condition was the northern half of it, which is now their parcel, needed to be used for agricultural uses, except for within a building envelope, which could only be used for agricultural uses. I don't know what the real intent of that was. It doesn't really make any sense because the town didn't regulate agricultural uses and they could put buildings. I don't know what they're trying to get at, but what I think was that the developer in the town, in resolving their PRD dispute, put something in to address whatever this applicant had agreed to. And that ends up, and then in 2008, the lot was subdivided in the northern part, which was the agricultural use, kind of survived from that, but it hasn't been used. It has developed in a way that currently has, these large structures in it that have nothing to do with the wastewater system or the view sheds. And this project has the overwhelming support of the neighborhood up there. So I think that's what the original intent might have been back then.
My memory from when we originally approved the barn was that it was more of an aesthetic thing, that this open field was a view shed thing, and the neighbors at the time, maybe when the subdivision was created, wanted to leave this view from the road. One of the reasons we liked your project was that it was a barn, and we kind of felt like it worked within that spirit, but at the same time, I also appreciate that we need more housing in this town.
Yeah, and to be clear, there's no proposal to remove the agriculture restriction from outside of the building envelope. Obviously, and all the development is within the building. It's just to remove that. I think what my reading is what they were trying to do in this larger lot with the residential use on it was to restrict the northern part to just be to the town, the extent the town could, to restrict the northern part to just be agricultural, except for within this building envelope. but then they added the restriction for the agriculture for only in that building envelope. And I don't know if that just was a holdover from a prior plat or I don't really know what they're trying. It didn't really make any sense because then you don't need a building envelope, I guess, if you can do this exact same
Right,
thing.
if
as
it's,
inside
there's
and
no
outside. I
difference
don't really
inside or
know.
outside,
And
yeah.
we've never really treated it that way.
Actually, I was on the board back when this all took place, and I don't have a great recollection of it, but I seem to remember that the board at that time felt that because this lot was going to contain all the septic system usage, that it was important to keep the lot fairly open and not subject to the residential uses. But I don't have a clear recollection of that after all these years.
So
Yeah.
that sort of leads into the question I was going to ask, and this may be getting into the merits of the subdivision proposal, but I'm interested in what wastewater provisions or facilities are on this, what now is described as lot 15 and on lot 8 as in the proposed subdivision.
Yeah, so the 8 lot subdivision, that homes all have a shared wastewater system that's on a distant portion
Yeah.
of this parcel far down to the south.
To the
And-
south.
Yeah, to the south, it's actually on this parcel, but it's on the far corner of the parcel. It has nothing to do with the building envelope. And then in 2015 or 16, the Sipes built an ADU on their what was originally lot 8, where their home is, and built this photography studio and got a separate wastewater permit for those 2 uses because they weren't on the community wastewater system.
Yeah.
And those 2 are also on lot 7 in a completely different area, kind of just outside the building envelope that we're talking about. And so they will require a state amendment to turn in the commercial use into a residential use and expansion of the wastewater system. But the home site now is on a separate wastewater system, and it really has nothing to do with the community wastewater system.
So if I'm looking at this subdivision plan, which lot is the community system on?
If I should clarify a little bit, in the southern western corner, it's actually the Wild Apple HOA, which was the first development.
Yeah, yeah.
That has their septic running out to the back of our field,
Okay,
which is, 800,000 feet away from what we're talking about.
that it?
I think, yeah, easement area for.
The road that comes
primary
kind of
and
right next to the building envelope, that kind of roadway, that access goes way out to a septic system, kind of by that funny little. It's
You have a map there, if I can get it out.
Yeah, sure,
pulled
absolutely.
up.
Actually, may be in the package here.
Yeah, there it is. Here we go. Is it this thing in the bottom
it out.
left there?
Now, this is the septic that we put in that services both the studio and the accessory dwelling at the house. And this is the Wild Apple,
Sorry, I'm sorry, I need to show this.
the Wild Apple that pumps down from their pump station next to our drive road and then
Okay,
makes its way out to the backfield.
okay.
Let me share this. I don't have to share yet.
Okay, that's very helpful.
And you see the building envelope? Well, and I just have one other comment. If this was to be approved, you could expand within that building envelope through the regular permitting process, depending how you want to do it. I'm not sure what your permit, your wastewater permit states right now. Is it what's it's rated at? And that might need to be revised too, but that's the permitting process.
Mhm.
That's not anything we have to do with the subdivision amendment. Because we're here just to remove that prohibition. That's it.
And to be clear, they still need to amend their declaration and get state permitting. This was just like the entry level was just at the town to make sure that we can do this at the town. level.
Right, right.
Okay, any further comments or questions from the board?
No.
Good.
Hearing none, anything from the viewing public, whether it be in the room or on the video?
David, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
That's all right. Yeah, just if you choose to approve this application, we'd also just ask that the next hearing be a consolidated hearing for the final subdivision application that consolidates whatever happens here with our original application, so we can do the final subdivision in one hearing if approved tonight.
So we've done that before, but that means you have to have all your ducks in line and everything
Mhm.
submitted to us so that we can approve it as a final. If something is missing, then we would not be able to approve it as a final.
Understood.
Okay. But I understand from the amount of hearings you've all been through that you probably want to
Yeah.
quicken the process as much as possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe they were sent through preliminary at one point already, so.
Yeah, and that was at the suggestion of Attorney Rue also. It was that would be the pathway if approved tonight.
Sure, no problem. Since I can't see everybody, is there any other comments that people want to make?
David, can you hear us?
Yeah,
This is Joe O'Leary. My wife Stephanie and I live across the road. We're just to the north. We just had a few questions, so.
fire away.
Yeah, we're wondering if this subdivision happens, does this set a precedent for further subdivisions on that hill? Because we experienced quite a bit of erosion on this side. I don't know if it's from it happening on there or not. Was this set a precedent, make it easier for people to do more subdivisions beyond this one?
So as was just stated by our ZA, it doesn't preclude it, but they would have to go through the whole process again from preliminary right through to a final. And they would have to also get the necessary state permits. And you as an abutting landowner would have plenty of opportunity to make your thoughts known.
Okay, so this wouldn't help further projects down the road with their process. If this gets approved.
I don't see that. I mean, I think they'd have to go through the same process. It doesn't stop them from making the application, but it doesn't mean that they're gonna be successful.
Right, okay. We're wondering, we're concerned about further development impacting our wells here. People have been running dry with this weather. I don't know if anyone can answer that there or not, but it's just a concern that we have to have one more house on this aquifer, so.
Well, actually, isn't the studio now on the systems?
Yes, we have a well that's been in place for the last 8 years on the land. So we're not talking about, Joe, and Stephanie, we're not talking about any new developments. We're just talking about rezoning our existing white barn. And I'd also like to say that as far as our property is concerned, we've done a lot of wetlands delineations, and there's no available area on our land for any kind of development further than what we've already done. So it's all kind of conserved.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's pretty much what we have for concerns, folks. We just want to put them out there, and it's
yeah, understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anybody else that has any comments?
I don't see any, David.
Okay, what would the board like to do? Well, let me back up on that. Any further information that the applicant wishes to bring forth?
No, I think we've given all the information unless there's any questions.
Okay, what would the board like to do?
I'd move to approve.
I would just say one more thing. We do have a question from the public, from Trevor Brooks.
Oh, okay.
The question goes, this limitation was only opposed by the DRB as a question. There's no environmental court order or other court order that also specifies the same or similar restrictions. There was a court
What
order.
was that? Would you repeat that?
It says, okay, it says this limitation was only opposed by the DRB. There is no environmental court order or other, in a question, it is stated, there is no other court order or other court order that also specifies the same or similar restrictions.
Well,
Nothing is a-
I think in answer to that, in my view, the DRB was upholding an existing court order. To me, that seems to be the answer to that question. And the applicant has brought forth, along with the town attorney, a methodology for moving forward, even with that court order.
Through the Stowe Club Highlands analysis specifically. This would be considered a critical permit condition. And that is the template that we have followed. Trevor, just to let you know. And that's the only one we have there. Oh, we got another one.
Okay. So there's a motion to approve this application. Is there a second?
I'd move that we move to deliberative session on this.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
so for the applicants, we voted to move it to the deliberative session. The taking of evidence is closed, and we have 45 days to make a decision, but I assure you we'll hopefully come to a decision much faster than that.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wes.
Okay, let me get the agenda back up here. So next on the agenda is CUR 2025-02, Jane Miller. She is seeking after-the-fact approval for the renovation of flood damaged single-family dwellings located within the flood hazard overlay district of the Huntington River at 20 West White Hill. Is Jane in the, oh, there she is. Hi, Jane.
Is in-
Yeah. I just had to stand up and walk around. Yeah, so.
Let me swear you in,
as
Jane.
Python
I'm
said,
gonna swear you in.
oh, okay,
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Why don't you tell us your name and then tell us what you have
Okay,
in
my
mind
name
here.
is Jane Ann Miller. And I own a house on the corner of West White Hill and Cochrane Road. Okay. Like Monty Python said, now for something completely different than what you were just talking about. So the night of July 10th and 11th, the second flood. So this was 2024. My not my house, but my basement was flooded from two sides. This was not the river. I live right on the bank of the Huntington. But it was not the river that came up over the banks. This was runoff from West White Hill and runoff from a neighbor's gravel pit and gravel driveway. So the water came down in two different directions, right? And what it did was ruin the foundation. The house itself, because this was a full basement, 8 foot high, the water in the basement reached about 4 to 5 feet. However, it did not reach any of the rest of the house. It never got close to the first floor. And but it was obvious that something had to be done immediately. It was not as if I could apply for a permit ahead of time. And so I chose just to go ahead, contacted some contractors, local contractors, and then, but did speak with, well, I didn't know who I was speaking with at the time. I mean, I had people from the Red Cross wanting to take me to Barry to live in a cot, you know, um, for, weeks on end. But I was able to stay in the house for a couple of weeks, but again, I had to make an immediate decision on what to do. And the options were, take a buyout, which did not make sense to me because people from 2023 still had not gotten any kind of, compensation, and we're still waiting.
And they still have it, so.
Yeah, and so, I did, it's not as if I didn't consult, but this is nothing I have ever done before. So, so I just went ahead with the work, and if you have read the staff notes and looked at the narrative, that's how it went. And I have been slow about keeping, the commission informed, but part of that is because I was very dependent on the contractors' schedules. So the first immediate thing, I was able to stay in the house for a couple of weeks because the water had not gotten to, the fuse box was above where the water was, but everything else in the basement, all of the utilities were down there. And so those were wiped out. So the first thing to do was to make sure that the fuel oil tank had not leaked. That was one of the first things we did. And someone from, I forget, so someone came and checked the soil to make sure, and the company is called Tank Safe, but this is a person who specializes in, making sure that if there's damage to a fuel oil tank, that it is not, been absorbed in the soil. So all of that. So that was the first thing, clearing out the basement. Again, so, washer dryer, fuel oil tank, water heater, furnace, and a variety of tools they were all gone, right? So, and after talking with the contractors, and again with Efficiency Vermont, which was very helpful, basically what we did was replace that full basement with a crawl space and move the switch to heat pumps rather than fuel oil heat and a furnace, and move everything up to the level of what is the south porch. Meanwhile, the house needed to be elevated. And so there was a surveyor was brought in, I brought in a surveyor and a structural engineer to do the measurements. They consulted with the contractors, and so there was one person who was responsible. I guess you could call him a general contractor, although it wasn't a formal, agreement. But he did the concrete, the foundation work, and he brought in a house mover who was the one who raised the house, moved it over, and then put it back on the foundation. Meanwhile, I was out of my house for 4 months. It took me a while to find a place to live, and I have wonderful neighbors who took me in. We thought it would be maybe 4 to 6 weeks. It was 4 months. And so, and again, between and I do not complain about the quality of the work that the contractors have done, but I was dependent on their schedule. So like in November, one's going off to his hunting camp in Pennsylvania, you know, and another one's going up to Lake Ontario. You know, so, and there's, you know, so if I have been slow about this, maybe it's some of my slowness, but I was dependent on their schedules as well in getting all of this done. So I was finally able to move in before New Year's, before last New Year's, with, well, because I had overstayed my welcome with my good neighbors that, you know, they had family coming in, it was going on Christmas. And so I had to goose the contractors along. But anyway, so I had heat, the heat pumps were in. And part of the electricity was in, I still had no water. For a week or so, and then I had water, but no hot water. So all of this, you know, was kind of bit by bit. And you know, just one thing, because certain things had to be done before other things could be done. So for example, the whole house had to be rewired from a different direction. Same with, you know, the water lines, had to be moved. The well and the septic were not affected because the well is slightly uphill. And so, you know, the Spafford was the committee that checked it, but they, you know, waiting for them would have taken months.
You also didn't change the house. It's the
No,
same
the
house,
only,
just that-
no, the only direction there, you know, there's nothing new built there. The only direction anything moved was up. You know, according to specifications, again, set by, that both the surveyor and the structural engineer had.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I would add, they did your structural engineer did a really good job of cataloging everything, and
Yeah.
that's part of the packet too. And he
Yeah.
did sign off on it at the end of the day.
Yeah, he had to, well, he had to crawl in, you know, through what had been a basement window because you know, there was no porch.
Right.
So anybody had to get in by going into the new crawl space and then kind of heaving themselves up to what had been, you know, the staircase to the basement. My contractors did build a staircase, so that is now accessible. But so it's a lot of, while the structural stuff is done, there's been a lot of collateral, collateral damage inside the house, but it is, you know, the, crawl space is fully insulated, there are flood vents. So as far as I know, I have complied with everything structurally that needs to be done. There's still more, you know, there's some siding to be repaired. But, you know, again, all the utilities are up and Patterson signed, you know, a new slab was laid for propane because I'm using propane just for the stove and for the water heater. And so as far as I know, all of that is compliant with code and regulations and Keith put into the staff notes that the house is reasonably safe. And I think that's all
From flooding, yes.
from flooding. Yeah, yeah. You know,
That's the standard that the NFIP puts out there. It needs to be reasonably safe. And flooding.
well,
They
you know,
don't
I think that's about all anybody can ask is to be reasonably safe. You know, not perfectly safe. And again, I got a lot of help with, I worked with FEMA. And however much people may complain about FEMA that first round, the people on the ground were really good. And also efficiency, I got some rebates from Efficiency Vermont. For, for the heat pumps and for moving to more electric. So I really appreciate all of that. And I mean, frankly, the house is sounder and safer than it was before the flood,
Should be.
ironically, ironically enough. So,
Jade, we really appreciate all you've been through. It's crazy. And we've heard some other after the fact, applications such as yours after the first flood, which I think was 2 years ago. And, mostly in the village down by the, river.
Yeah.
So we appreciate what you had to go through. And obviously you had to take care of yourself first. So does
No,
anybody on the board have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. I'm new to this, Jane, so I was not involved in those prior applications, so I'm just interested in learning a couple things. I'm looking at the report by Richmond Professional Engineering.
mhm.
And one statement they made in that report is that the source of the flooding was the adjacent Huntington River, which is inconsistent with what you have told us.
No, the river did not jump its banks.
It did not.
It did not.
Yeah.
What happened was again, okay, so I don't know if you are familiar with that corner,
Yeah,
but I live right at the bottom
Yep.
of West White Hill
Yep.
and the intersection
Yep.
of West White Hill and Cochrane Road.
Yeah.
And so what happened was that as the runoff came down the hill, there are other either creeks or culverts that go into the Huntington. But one of them is right behind my garage. It's the very edge of my property. It's the border of,
And
my
it diverts
property.
water off of West White
And
into
so, so there was water coming down and that was getting clogged for another reason. And so what happened was then so it wasn't the river that jumped the banks. It was that culvert that was clogged or filled up. And the water came through my garage and through the yard and then down into the river, which eroded part of the bank of the river. So again, it wasn't the river itself that did the damage. The other part of it was runoff from, again, there's a bluff
across the road.
across the road and the neighbors have a gravel pit and a long gravel driveway. And there's another culvert right by that stop sign, but there is really no channel for that water that comes down that way to get to the river. There is a little, and again, if you picture that, there is like a 5-car, 6-car, if people try to really squeeze in, pull off, right there next to Edmonds Bridge. And there's a little gully. And so, this had never happened before. But presumably any water that came down through that culvert, which is pretty big, would just kind of settle in that little gully. Well, there was too much. And so it flooded my front yard. And that was what took out the foundation. That, from that side. So stuff from West White Hill, that came down, did in part of my garage, took out my car, and many other things that were there. But the front yard was where the north side of the house is where that corner of the foundation went. And yeah, it was quite a night. I went out to about midnight to see what was happening because I heard some commotion and it turned out that one of the fire trucks, not a tank truck, but a small one, had gone off the road right by the stop sign and lost a tire. So there were a lot of blue lights, red lights, et cetera. And I thought, I'm not gonna walk out my south door because I see this water coming. I'll go out the front. And I stepped right into about a 3-foot sinkhole. And I'm lucky, in that, I didn't crack my head on the cement steps.
So have either of those culvert structures been upgraded since the?
They have, the town crew, tries to keep up. They have added some, it's not big, it's not huge riprap. But they have, tried to shore up the sides, at least of the two that are closest to me with, like yay big rocks. But there's a lot of, so it's smaller riprap, but it's the small gravel and the silt that is, clogging things up.
I'm well aware of this because I live on Williams Hill and
Yeah,
that same night, 2 culverts uphill from my house
Mhm.
failed, got overrun and washed out a good portion of Williams Hill,
yeah,
my driveway. So I know what. I
yeah.
know
Well,
what it is.
I'm not alone and I am lucky in that, people on Snipe Island Road, Glade Pond Circle, had much worse damage, let alone talk about people in Plainfield and, Montpelier and Barry. But, I don't know. And again, this has been a kind of a backwards,
Entirely understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was an incredible ordeal that you went through. I live on West White. I drove by,
well,
pretty much every day for the last year and
Yeah.
saw your progress and just, reading through the package of materials. I don't know what else. you
yeah,
could have
well,
done, and
I do
Great to
sort
see
of,
great to
sort-
see the house preserved,
I,
made better.
well, the house has an interesting story in and of itself. But I won't go into that. But it's, I will kind of miss the big, combination backhoe and
Yeah, it
bucket
was like a
loader,
lawn-
that
lawn
was
ornament
like a
project
lawn
out there.
for, for months.
Sorry, did you have more questions, Bob? I didn't mean to catch up.
I just
Yeah.
want to clarify. I think you answered the question, but this engineering report indicates that as of December of last year, you were exploring options for a sump pump and flood vents, which hadn't been installed.
No, the flood vents are installed.
They are installed.
They are installed. Yeah,
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
yeah.
Any other comments from the board? Any
No.
comments from the public?
I am the public. No.
Okay, what would the board like to do?
Sorry.
I'm just curious why you're listening to this engaging. Was something within the DRB's authority
Yes, it's,
that was violated?
Not bad.
she's getting approval from the flood hazard overlay district for a permit.
It's, it's, like the
It's
whole
approved
watershed.
After the fact?
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That question been answered?
Yes.
So again, what would the board like to do?
I'd move to approve.
Is there a second to that?
Yeah, I would second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Jane?
I would add, there's one condition that does need to be met, and it's in my staff notes. It has to do with the Vermont Office of Watershed Management. I need to get a response from them. And if so allowed, I'll add that to the decision.
Yes, sorry, that was my intent to approve with the conditions. noted.
With stated conditions.
Yes.
Sorry, John.
No, that's not, no, but it's good to clarify. My bad.
Okay, everybody who approved, are they accepting of that
Yes.
addition?
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, doke. Jane, we've approved your application and we'll try to get you a order as soon as Keith is willing.
I think it's more able.
No. Yeah. Well, thank you. It's been quite a year,
Yeah.
you know.
I'll bet it is.
No, thank you for your patience also with me. I know I was handling it, but
Well, I mean,
It's a prank here.
that's your job.
it is my job.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
okay.
Keith, is there anything else that we need to discuss on the record?
Yeah, I guess real quick, we did hire a zoning administrator last week. His name is Dante. His first name is Dante. And I do know his last name, but I'm not gonna share it with you at this point. We'll just leave it at that. He starts on Tuesday. And we discussed this a little bit this morning, David. He does have a JD background, so he can interpret law, which is important in this position, and he's a very good writer. He starts on Tuesday, and I'm on the verge of being giddy, as a matter of fact. But you'll see the two of us here on the 10th.
Great.
So Keith, is part of his duties to deal with us, just like we've done
Yeah,
in the past?
That's his main duty, is to deal with you folks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's the zoning administrator, but yeah, he's fresh, he's young, he's pretty enthusiastic. I think you're gonna like him. We'll make sure he's thorough, and we'll set him up with protocols that my office wishes to be followed.
Terrific. That's good news.
Good work.
I know you'll be sorry not to do both roles.
You are correct. I would be remiss if I wasn't sorry.
Is there anything else we need to discuss?
Now I just need to go to the deliberative session for Sipe.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to go into deliberative session.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Okay.
Okay,
You're gonna have to vacate.
I'm gonna make a statement.
Oh, you want to make a statement?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I'd like to make a statement regarding
Oh, well, come on up. We can't hear you.
the 2025-02 preliminary decision on this board's part made on July 9th.
would you
So-
please state your name?
My name is G.C. Moss. My address is 183 West Main Street, Richmond, Vermont.
So, I mean, David, I'm not sure how you want to handle this. This has to do with an application that would be before the board on the 10th.
Well, then, why don't you save your comments to when the application's in front of us? Because we will have no knowledge of anything you're about to discuss until we see the materials.
Oh, you've seen the materials and you made a preliminary decision, which I'm stating my disappointment
Well,
about.
but they haven't.
But now is not the time to do that. The time to do that would be at the final hearing.
I certainly, oh, well, I'm not sure I can do that.
You can't submit written comments also.
Thank you. for
The other thing is that hearing has already taken place, and did you appeal that hearing?
I'm here to make a statement to express my disappointment in the decision that was made on July 9th.
Okay, and I fully understand you wanting to do that, and I think the time to do that would be at the final hearing. Because right now, they've been given preliminary approval. That approval has not been appealed to my knowledge. And so your comments would be very applicable at the final hearing, because that's when we would make that final decision as whether to grant that permit or not.
I understand. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Okay, let's
I'm
go
gonna-
off the record and go to deliberative session.
Then we stop the share and you've already gone into deliberative session. Where's the report? Stop.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion on Sipe.
So I guess I'll make the motion, that we, approve a determination that the application does not violate the rule of finality under the zoning laws, and therefore agree that the application for, a subdivision amendment or subdivision approval may move forward.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Great.
Matt, you have a second?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
What about, we decided no already, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Okay, yeah. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And Keith, what do we look like for September?
Well, you saw a preview of that a few minutes ago. September 10th is you have one item on it. It's Lavoy, it's the PUD up on, West Main.
Okay.
The
Okey-doke.
garage thing.
All right, look for that in the mailbox soon near you. Yeah,
Great,
fantastic.
thank you all.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, David.
David.